In this video, we'll be looking at the BREWHA fermenter. We'll be looking at its various features and fittings, and we'll be discussing a little bit about the benefits that it brings to you as a brewer. The BREWHA fermenter is made with the same heavy-duty 304 food-grade stainless steel of all the BREWHA vessels, and it has the same mirror polish finish, which is the smoothest finish possible in stainless steel, and it leaves the least chance for microorganisms to be hiding out on the surface of your vessel. We'll be starting down at the bottom of the vessel and moving to the top. Down at the very bottom of the vessel, you notice that large diameter, heavy duty locking casters come standard with all fermenters. This is really useful because it means that you're able to move your fermenter around without having to pick it up. When it's full of wort or beer, it's really hard to move, so the casters on the bottom are critical. It's also locking, so that if you don't want it to be moving at all, then you're able to lock it right into place. Down at the bottom of the actual vessel, you notice that it has a cone at the bottom, hence the name Conical Fermentor. The cone is really useful because it funnels all of the solids that are dropping out of your wort, out of your beer, down to the bottom, where a port can remove them out of the bottom. This means that you don't need to rack your beer off of, out of, say, your glass carboy into a secondary, risking compromising your sanitation at that point, as you can just remove the solids out. I also like to use it right after the boil. Once I've chilled the wort and transferred it over to the fermenter, I don't worry about leaving all the protein material behind in the boil kettle. I just bring it over to the fermenter, let it sit for a few minutes, it settles down to the bottom, and I can drain it out the bottom. This means that I'm preserving the maximum amount of wort for fermentation and not leaving it behind in the boil kettle. The ports that we have come standard with all BREWHA fermenters are sanitary valves, or the valves rather. They're really useful because you can take them completely apart in order to clean them thoroughly. There's a valve right at the very bottom, as I mentioned, for removing the solids out of the bottom. There's a valve on the side of the cone which sits just above the yeast cake level. If you don't transfer your yeast after primary fermentation, when things start to settle down in the fermenter, you can remove the yeast out the bottom using the bottom valve as well. But if you choose not to do that and you want to transfer over to your kegs earlier or into a separate conditioning vessel, then you can use the port that's halfway up the cone. It's above the yeast sediment layer so that it doesn't bring all your yeast over into your secondary vessel. Up here at the top is a blow-off port. It also has a valve on it. It's on tri-clamp fitting so that you can pull it off if you want to put a rubber bung in, or if you want some other system for letting your gas out, your CO2 out. I like typically use a blow-off hose. There's sufficient capacity in this fermenter for a double batch. For 42 liters of wort is what I transfer in here typically. And I've never had, myself personally, have never had bubbling come out through the blow-off tube because there's a large enough headspace in here that it remains in the vessel. The fourth port here on the top of the vessel is another 1.5 inch tri-clamp fitting, and what we've done is we've installed a 1/4 inch MPT coupling on the top here. What this enables you to do is, based on the coupling that you have from your CO2 tank, if you're kegging, then you can attach a gas lock fitting, your ball lock or pin lock fitting into the top, and when it comes time to rack out to get your beer out of here into your kegs or into the bottles, then you can apply a little bit of pressure in here, 1 or 2 psi of CO2 pressure, in order to get it into the keg. What I've found is that with the first keg, if you're using 2 corny kegs of 19 liters each, the first keg transfers over really easily because it's sitting above the port and or sitting above the beer level rather. But for the second keg, sometimes it drops below the top of the keg, and if you have a hose going up over and into your keg, then the beer's not going to flow with gravity anymore, so then you can apply a little bit of pressure in here in order to push that last bit of beer over into your keg. The last thing I want to talk about is the large diameter opening at the top. This means that you're able to take the whole lid off. The opening is the whole lid and it comes right off. There's an adjustable tension clamp here which keeps the lid on, and there's a food grade silicone gasket underneath here which seals it airtight. By being able to remove the whole lid, you're able to look right inside your vessel and ensure that everything is perfectly clean inside. So that's it for the BREWHA fermenter. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us using the form on the Contact Us page or on the About Us page. Thanks for watching.